Continuing with our strategic analysis here, the Pakistani warnings to the United States have been multiplying. Again, disastrous consequences. There must be no repeat of these unauthorized raids. So as the Al-Qaeda stuff builds up, remember I heard a number of CIA old boys in particular this week saying, if there are these revenge attacks coming from Al-Qaeda, we should remember that they may also be coming from the ISI, from the Inter-Services Intelligence Service of Pakistan. So that would be an excuse for them retaliating directly against Pakistan. And you also have to factor in this past week, early on in the crisis, we had a relatively clear statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry that China rejects these accusations against Pakistan as somehow being complicit with terrorism more than anybody else, I guess, and therefore China supports Pakistan. This essentially means, forget the details, dear U.S., you mess with Islamabad, you got trouble with Beijing. Do you really want to do this? Russia in the background, obviously, once these things get going, cannot remain indifferent. Big question to India, where do you stand? Are you going to get yourself dragged into a thermonuclear war as a tail on the U.S. kite? Is India going to sacrifice thousands of years of civilization because the U.S. empire is crumbling? We've seen this before, right? We had the Spanish, the French, the British colonial empires coming down, the U.S. neo-empire now clearly coming down. But great nations now have to think of how to save themselves, how to get themselves into a lifeboat in the middle of this general shipwreck. So I would urge India to pull back from the pattern of cooperating with the U.S. You become the cat's paw of the U.S. on the Eurasian continent, you're going to fare very, very badly. Now, there had been a build-up to the attack on Pakistan worth mentioning, right? Najibullah Zazi in Queens in the summer of 2009, right out there in Flushing, now in jail, right? He was from Pakistan. The Times Square bomber, January 2010, also allegedly from Pakistan. Big threats to Pakistan around that one. Mumbai, of course, blamed on Pakistan, but wasn't there that DEA agent in the middle of it that set it all up? Yes, there was, a DEA agent of the U.S. government right in the middle. We've had some harsh statements in these U.S. government terror reports, and, of course, I stress it again, WikiLeaks. Let me just spell this one out, because I mentioned this on Russia Today, and the transcript was garbled. WikiLeaks is a CIA limited hangout operation. In short, WikiLeaks is a speaking tube of the CIA, and it is used to target the CIA hit list. And Assange, as I've tried to suggest, is this zombie. He's an alumnus who apparently grew up in an atmosphere completely tinged with MK Ultra, the Ann Hamilton Byrne cult. So WikiLeaks was putting out this stuff about the internal workings of Guantanamo and so forth, and the Washington Post headline, the first page on April 25th, was new revelations on Al-Qaeda's 9/11 movements. First line of the story, on September 11, 2001, the core of Al-Qaeda was concentrated in a single city, Karachi, Pakistan. You get the idea. Now, we've also had this Ray Davis case, and I come back to Ray Davis because this may be the template of what to look for. The radiological dirty bomb. Ray Davis, first of all, alleged to be a diplomat, clearly not, then CIA contractor perhaps, accused by the Pakistanis of murdering 2 ISI agents, and other press sources around the world also indicated that he was essentially in contact with all kinds of terrorists himself, and some alleged that he had been part of the preparation of a radiological dirty bomb. So that would, of course, be the key one, because that would allow the U.S. to argue, aha, the Pakistani nuclear forces are not under control. So this is now the buildup, and I'll get to some questions of drills in a minute. We're told that there's a cache of documents, the files, the disk drives, the thumb drives, the hard drives of the bin Laden office there. And, of course, what can this be used for? Well, yeah, the simple thing is, you're an intelligence agency. You go into those hard drives and you make sure that you find things, you manufacture things that target who you want to target. Maybe you can target China. Maybe you can target Russia. Maybe you can target Iran. You can certainly do something to target Bandar, can't you? You can certainly target Gaddafi. So you get the idea. This is now carte blanche, right? Anything you want to pull out of the hat can be attributed to the bin Laden files. So the CIA essentially becomes its own WikiLeaks, right? The CIA becomes WikiLeaks vis-a-vis bin Laden. There's also an attempt by the Wall Street Journal, I think, to found their own WikiLeaks this week. So all of this going on, and watch out for these drone strikes. As I said, Thursday there was a drone strike in Pakistan. There's also in Yemen a drone strike, the first one since 2002, we're told. If you believe it, I don't know. Also, watch out for Obama. He loves adulation. He is a narcissist. He is a megalomaniac. These events are not tailored to his needs, but if you happen to be president and you do get this idea that you're greedy for adulation and that military action is the way to get it, you can go into a manic flight forward, especially because his economic performance, of course, is so wretched, as we've been seeing again and again this week. Now, concerning Libya, let's not forget Libya. This may be an even more an immediate area of military clash. The NATO commander has announced that the bombing of Libya has reached an impasse. They just can't seem to destroy Gaddafi's forces, and therefore circles in NATO are calling for a new United Nations resolution allowing for the ground invasion of Libya. Now, at this point, dear Russia, dear China, dear others, you must vote against this now. You must veto this, or you will have ceased to exist. And forces inside these countries that don't see that, I'm afraid, are not representing the interests of those countries. We're also told that the rebels in Libya, this gang with plenty of al-Qaeda representatives around the table, we've got Yunus, we've got Jalil, we've got Hifter, and they're going to be broke. I wonder how much of that money has already gone to Switzerland. So they want a piece of the $33 billion of assets that the U.S. has. They want some of that oil money. Apparently Qatar, or Qatar, as it's possibly called, have helped the rebels to sell, I think, 200 million or so of oil. This is, of course, stealing. If Hillary Clinton dares to begin giving the $33 billion of Libyan money to these rebels, this is going to cause some real problems, right? As we see in Shakespeare, fie upon your law. If that's your idea of private property contracts and ownership of money, then I don't know who in his right mind would ever put money in the U.S. anymore. Better go back to Switzerland at that point or someplace else. So, Saif Gaddafi and the three children, one child of 3 years, one child of 2 years, one child of 3 or 4 months. And these are grandchildren of other children of Gaddafi. And then this revolting, monstrous spectacle of the dance of death in Benghazi on Saturday night, which then, of course, became a similarly macabre spectacle here in Washington and in New York. I want to condemn the policy of assassinations carried out by NATO. I would like to also point out what Putin had said about bombing infrastructure. That is, of course, genocide. If you destroy the great man-made river, that is mass murder. That's a Nuremberg crime. These precedents are still there, and maybe someday they'll be validated. So watch out for false flag attacks blamed on Libya. Back in a minute.